Hello, and welcome to another episode of Latina Mic Drop. I really wanted to talk to you all because I've been really thinking about my relationship with my wife. I realize that a lot of people really don't have what we have. I think it's important that we have a discussion about it. A lot of people are probably pretty curious about our relationship too, because they tend not to see two women together or may not be around people who are, and we are two Latinas, two modern day Latinas who are both working in the transportation industry, which is male dominated. I'm Mexican background, she is Puerto Rican background. It's just one of those things that I really hold close to my heart and is really sacred to me. Me going into this and sharing a little bit about us is a little bit stretching and a little bit out of my comfort zone. But I do know that without her, life would be very different and would be a million times harder. And even though it was difficult for me growing up, and I shared a lot of different stories in my book, Tattoos and Pearls. If you haven't gotten it yet, it's on Amazon. The reality is that she's been by my side the whole time, in the majority of my adulthood. We met, wow, at this point, more than 18 years ago. So I would say maybe 20 years ago, we met each other. I will be turning 45. I was probably 25 years old, 24, 25 years old when I met her. We were both working at the airport, at Newark Airport. I was working, she was working, and we happened to hang out at the same places at the same time. We became really good friends. She was living with somebody. We saw each other here and there, right? I didn't really hang out too much at that time because at that time my kids were little. They were really small. It was really impossible for me to hang out the way that I would like to hang out. But my grandparents and my aunts were very good to me. And whenever I wanted to sneak out after the kids went to bed, then my grandparents would let me get out of the house and go out and meet my friends. Imagine I'm young in my 20s. I love to party and I love to dance and I love to have a good time. Well, I really hadn't ventured off into all of that. But at that time, I was going out a little bit more. We did have a good social group at work where we used to hang out and get to know each other after work. We became good friends. And then one time she says to me, "Hey, maybe we should go out to Puerto Rico. I'm going to Puerto Rico for about 13 days or however many days it was at that time." She didn't go for like 5 or 7 days. She would go for almost 2 weeks. And I'm like, well, I've never really gone anywhere. Imagine my kids are at this point, what, 3 to 6 years old. I can't just walk away from them and leave them. They're in school, this and that. She ended up saying, "Hey, you know what, like it's probably I'm gonna go. If you want to come, you could come with me. You could stay at my grandparents house with me, and we could just go. It's pretty calm and quiet. We could just hang out." We go on this trip, and this is the first time I have ever left my kids for such a long time. I usually would just drop off my kids for a Friday night into a Saturday, or Saturday night into a Sunday with my Aunt Gloria, because she had a pool and they like to have a good time over there. And they would always have a barbecue on the weekend. So they would always have a good time, right? We go on this trip. We're hanging out. We're having a great time. We're enjoying all the beautiful views over there in Puerto Rico. I was thinking, man, I really like it out here. $2 coronas at the time. And going to the different places, going to the different beaches, and hanging out at her grandparents' house, nice and calm, real quiet. We were sharing a room, and it was just so nice to be calm and quiet. And we really got to know each other. The incredible story here is the fact that I really hadn't dated a woman before, and she really hadn't either. We were both kind of feeling feelings that we kind of felt chemistry with each other during this trip, but we didn't act on it. We come back to Jersey, we come back to work, we come back to doing our regular thing. We were both prior to this, and I can only speak for myself, but I'll, eventually maybe one day she can come on the podcast and she can talk to you all, but I'll tell you from my experience. I know for me, for a fact, I had always been looking for love in the wrong places. And I actually, at this point, was really not looking for a permanent person to be with. I had given up on love. I had given up on being with anybody. I had given up on really having a long term relationship because I just wasn't willing to have my daughters and my son around a stranger. So for me, there was just no way that I was going to bring a person into my life that could probably, maybe, even if I trusted them, could possibly, there could be a possibility of something happening to my daughters or my son. So that for me was completely out of the question. I was not looking for a long term relationship. I was not looking for anything permanent. I was not looking for my kid's father or anything like that. I was not interested at all. I mean, when I told you I was not interested, I was not interested at all. I had even said, once this relationship is over, because it took me a very long time to get rid of the relationship. It took me years to get rid of the relationship, and 3 kids later. And it was really one of the hardest things for me to do. It was one of the hardest heartbreaks I've had. I had quite a bit of issues and problems with it, not only with that relationship, but then right before, I had lost my friend who had gotten shot, and we were just at the very beginning of our relationship. We literally were dating for like 30 days. We were boyfriend and girlfriend for 30 days. I had been through it, and now at this point, I'm a single mother. I'm very young. I have 3 little ones, and people ask you stupid questions like, are your kids all from the same father? And you're going through the shame and the embarrassment of having 3 kids so young. It's still even hard for me to talk about it now because nobody goes through life saying that's what you're going to do. Nobody goes through life saying that's what you want. And nobody goes through life thinking, hey, this is how it's going to end. Really go into relationships thinking you're going to be in love and you're going to be okay and you're going to be good. But the reality is that it doesn't always happen that way. I always knew that I wanted a family. I always knew that I wanted kids. And I always knew that I wanted like the fairy tale ending, right? You have a beautiful home, you have a beautiful family, you have your kids, we're both working, we're both doing well, we're both taking care of each other, and you can live together for so many years and you grow old together. That's what I was looking for. That's what I wanted. And that's what, unfortunately, sometimes people sell you that idea. I think that's why it was so funny and interesting to me that this week, a woman actually is suing a guy for the time wasted, that she spent with him. I'm interested in seeing how that case goes because, I mean, imagine she doesn't even have kids from this guy and I have 3 kids. It doesn't even matter because I don't even know where the hell he would even be able to pay for it because he never paid for child support throughout all the 18 years for each of 3 kids. Imagine if you go suing somebody for money and then they never give it to you. But the reality of it was that I was at such a point in my life where I was not looking for love, where I was not interested in being with anybody, where I was really just interested in raising my children. I was having a little bit of fun here and there, but that's all it was. Here comes this beautiful woman who has just the biggest heart in the world and is such a giving spirit. She was just the nicest person in the world. I knew that because we would talk about all the different things that we were going through and the different, we weren't talking like every day or all the time in the beginning. Then eventually we became really good friends. And she would actually like fight off the boys that I was kind of messing with or dating at the time. It was so funny to me because she would always like tell them to back off, or she would stand up against them for me. And it was so funny. We started to really connect in that way. And the other thing was that it was my daughter's birthday. And at this point, I had been living with my grandparents for quite some time because I had come back from living on my own. I had rented my apartment, but I was, in order to get away from my kid's father, what I did is I moved back to my grandparents' house. Thankfully, they took me back. But at this point, my grandfather had a stroke, and my grandfather was unable to go up the 4 flights of stairs of the building that we lived at. He and my grandmother were living with my Aunt Gloria for a little while, and I was in the apartment by myself. It was a really tough time for me because I was just trying to make ends meet, and I wasn't making a lot of money. I was only making like $12, $14 an hour, raising 3 kids. Rent was only $500, and that was really hard for me to pay. We hardly had any food to eat. It was to the point where I didn't even have beds in the house. One day, it was my daughter's birthday, my middle daughter, Rosa, and I didn't have a birthday gift to give her because I didn't have any money. I didn't even have a cell phone. I didn't even have how people could communicate with me. And I had these 3 little kids. And she was the only person that showed up at my aunt's house with a gift for my daughter. And I will never forget that day because I always have a birthday party for my kids. But because, my grandparents had just moved out of the apartment, I was really struggling to get things going. And it was brand new to me paying the rent while I was paying for my car payment, which was almost the same amount of money and only making like $12 an hour at the time. So it was really tough. That was a big piece of what happened, of why we were able to connect on a different level, because she was there for me. And little by little, we began to connect more and more. And now I really hadn't paid attention to all my previous feelings for women, but they've always been there. So I did have a girlfriend when I was in elementary school, just nobody knows about it. And I really wasn't interested in men too much. It was more like peer pressure. That's what it was like. My cousin, as a teenager, she was a few years older than me and a little more experienced in that area. And she was like, "This boy likes you. Why don't you come? Why don't you date him more? He's asking if you could go out with him, this and that." Girl, I did. What the hell was I doing? It was not a good experience. I was not happy being next to him. It was like ill. I was just thinking, he doesn't even hold my hand. He doesn't even speak to me. Like, what the are we doing? And we were just, like walking. He would come pick me up in the morning and go walk to school together. And it was just such a waste of my time, really. And I really didn't have feelings. Like, I didn't have connections. I didn't have anything like that. And then it was so funny and interesting. Even like how I had kids, even that piece, sometimes I think back and I'm like, a lot of things make sense now. And I won't get into it, but you can only imagine just by me telling you I didn't want to hold the guy's hand. So then it's so incredible sometimes how you betray yourself to meet the standards that you're used to. And so I had never seen anybody be with anybody that was from the same sex. Never. Like, that was just not something that we did in my neighborhood. It was nothing I really saw. And it was nothing people talked about. And if they were, nobody knew about it. Or if they knew about it, nobody really talked about it. And I ended up doing the same thing. Everybody was telling us in our group circle, it's pretty obvious that you two like each other. Like, why don't you guys go out, or why don't you guys hang out together? Why don't you girls go ahead? So we really didn't pay attention to it until we did. And once we did, it was over. And I can tell you that I would have never gotten my degree without her. I would have never been able to raise my kids without her. She helped me through many dark times. And when you read the book and you see all the stuff that I've been through and all the things that have happened to me, you will recognize that there was a lot of trauma and there was a lot of things that I needed to get over and a lot of things that I needed to move beyond. And when you have all this baggage, there's a lot to unravel and to unfold and to get over and to get through. And one of the hardest things for me to get over was the betrayal of the love that I had for somebody else. And it's not fair to her, but I can tell you that she has stuck by me and she has been with me almost 20 years now. And that just goes to demonstrate the love that we have for each other. Because even though I wasn't 100% fully trusting, I did my part as much as I could until I recognized myself. You know what? This is too hard. This is not the way it's supposed to be. This is not, I'm going against something that's good for me. And the bad part about it is the fact that sometimes we go against what's good because all we know is what's bad. And we let that drive our story, right? So the story I kept telling myself is, oh, I'm not good enough, or you can't trust anybody. Eventually they get tired of you. Eventually they'll leave you, right? And I'm a girl coming from very heavy abandonment issues. And if you read my story, you'll understand how the problems with my parents really show up. And it was really difficult for me. But the good thing about it is the fact that I was able to recognize that this was something that I wanted to fight for. And this was something that, even though it took me a long time, I finally realized that what I really needed, what I really wanted was to love myself. It took me so long to make that realization. I really want you to understand that our identities, we have many of them, right? But the one thing that you really want to pay attention to is the one thing that you want. Let me tell you this quick story. So we decide we're going to be together. And let me tell you, everything inside of me was saying, yes, you love her. Yes, you want to be with her. But it's going to be hard. People are not going to accept you. You're going to lose your family members. People are going to judge you. And people are going to talk shit about you and your kids. And even knowing that, we still decided that we were going to go ahead and we were going to live together. So I told her that she can come live with me. And I lived on a 4-story, 2-bedroom apartment. Me and my kids were there. My brother had just moved out, and my mom lived down the hall. So my mom is 100% against this, and she was going to give me hell. She and I have never gotten along forever. We've always been at odds. And now I really knew, I just kept thinking, like, what's the fucking difference? Like, what's the difference? We've never gotten along. Our relationship is what it is. We're never going to be able to get along. And that's just the reality of it, right? At some point, you have to accept the reality of your life and the reality of who they are and what they're about. And even if it's your parent, sometimes it's one of the hardest decisions to make, but I already knew that. So the funny part about this is the fact that she asked me to go pick her up from her boyfriend's house. So she was living with this guy, but he was actually out of the house more than there. And he had already done a few things that were uncalled for to her. Their relationship really was over. I told her, I said, you could come, I'll pick you up. So here I am driving an hour and a half from my house, and I go with my car and I go pick her up. So she brings a few of her belongings with her and she leaves her car. The guy is there, sees me and everything, doesn't even care. And that's how gangster we were that day. I didn't give a shit. I went, I picked her up, and I brought her home with me, and she's been with me ever since. And just so you could tell that sometimes it does take audacity to do things. And I used to think my grandma, my grandpa, like my grandpa would tell me things like, hija, ¿no te gusta el muchacho de la esquina ahí? ¿No quieres uno de esos muchachos? Yo conozco todos sus padres y maybe, yo te puedo arreglar con uno de ellos, right? So in English, that means daughter, because he would always call me his daughter. Do you like one of the gentlemen that are here outside in the corner? I know their parents and they're good guys, and I can introduce you, and maybe you can, be with somebody. And I would literally just laugh at my grandpa, and I'm like, no. And we would actually just crack up about it. But I was not interested in men. I don't know if I was in denial. I don't know if I was, and I don't know. I don't, or maybe just because I hadn't really met the right person, I didn't become aware of it fully 100%. And even though I did have feelings before for women, but I didn't really expect it to be my reality, and I really hadn't seen it, so I wasn't going to create it. But then when I met her, and everything just happened so fast, and she was the only person that was there for me many different times. And I was the only person that was there for her the same way. So we have both been able to support each other. And one of the biggest lessons that I learned that I wish you all, you listeners, can get is that you really can love somebody else. And I've heard this a million times, and you've probably heard this a million times. You can't love anybody else until you love yourself. And it is so fucking true. It is one of the truest things ever. And it took me so long to finally accept myself. And the reason why I couldn't accept myself was the fact that people didn't accept me, especially my mother. So when you have somebody like a parent who doesn't accept who you are, it becomes almost impossible for you to go ahead and accept yourself, because you want that acceptance from your parents. You want that love from your mother. You want that, unconditional love from them. And just to see it not come to fruition, just to see it not come to reality, and just to know it, I mean, obviously you can tell it's hard. It's not easy. And just imagine not me being a parent, having that love for my own kids and my own daughters. Like, it's just something I can't even, but what it did do for me was the fact that, because somebody that I worked with, and this is why sometimes our circles are really important, and role models are really important, and seeing other people like you are important, is because this other woman who was 20 years older than me, who could have been my mother, really saw me for me and really said, girl, just be you. And I will talk about this forever, because this is what changed my entire life. This is what changed my perspective. This is what had me, I was going in circles trying to get approval from everybody when I really didn't need that shit. I didn't need that at all. All I needed to do was get my own approval and my own acceptance. And once somebody saw me, and then I was able to see that it was okay to be me, to be myself, to be who I was. This is why I tell you that I don't want you to wait to ask to get permission or for somebody else to see you. And this is why I'm a coach, because I can mirror what you're missing, or I can mirror what's going on, and I can help you see it, because I didn't see it until this person helped me see it, who was a coach. And that's one of the main reasons why I became a coach. And then what I needed to do was, I needed to separate myself from my mother. And the day that I decided not to speak to her anymore and not to be around her, which is very hard for me, which is something I didn't want to do, which is something I fought to. I fought every single time to try to make that work, to try to make that relationship work. But no matter what I did, it wasn't going to work. And no matter what I did, every time I came across, all our interactions were just negative, come out feeling worse. I would feel like crap. I couldn't handle it. I just kept saying, you know what, this is uncalled for. I need to live my life, and I need to do me, and I need to be happy. And the way that I found my happiness was by separating myself and setting those boundaries once and for all, for good. And I have not looked back. It's been about 4 years at this point. And I can tell you, after those 4 years, that I was able to finally accept myself and finally thrive and finally be who I was wherever the hell I was through this personal experience, was through finding love for myself, was through accepting myself for who I am, regardless of what people think, regardless of what people say, regardless of the society that we live in, regardless of anything. I needed to understand, and I needed to accept, and I needed to love me. And that is something that you all have the permission to do on your own. Stop waiting for people to give you the approval, because you don't need it. You really don't. And sometimes you won't get it. And it takes acceptance, and it does take courage to be yourself, to be able to love the person that you love. And I can tell you, it is the most fulfilling thing ever. And I always talk about leadership. And I know that this is something that I've been fighting for. And leadership is going first, is being the first one to be yourself, is the first one to say, you know what? I know I need to fight for this. I know that I know who I am. And either way, I was going to find who I was, and I was going to accept it. And I just needed to go through my journey, and I needed to happen the way that it happened. And I needed to learn all those lessons throughout all these years. And I needed my wife to be able to do that. And after everything with my mom, and I stopped talking to her. What happened is that I had the courage to go ahead and get married to her. COVID helped too, because we didn't have to invite anybody. And we were able to be together. Now we're going to celebrate 20 years next year, 26. I can't even believe it. One of the main things that you will need in your professional life, in leadership, in your development, in everything, is support. And if you don't have the right partner, trust me, it is going to be 10 times hard. You know what this guy, my kid's father, told me after I had my first baby? He told me not to go to work. And my aunt was the one that actually said to me, what are you, crazy? You need to go back to work. Who the hell's going to feed your kid? You have a car to pay. You have this to pay. You need a place to live. Like, you cannot be relying on this guy, and you need your own money. And thank goodness for my aunt talking me into that, because I almost didn't come back to work. And the 6 weeks was over, and I wasn't going to come back. And this guy got mad at me because I did come back, because he did want me to stay home with the kids, and I didn't want to. And thinking back, I mean, that was a red flag right there for me at that time. And it wasn't like something that the guy is a good person and you're helping each other out and you're working it out with each other, and it's an agreement that you make and this person is helping you. No, it wasn't like that at all. This guy wasn't helping me at all. So if I didn't go to work, we weren't going to have shit. Like, if I didn't have anything working, I really wasn't going to have anything without working. So that's why my aunt knew, hey, this guy is not going to help you. You need to go back to work. And imagine if I didn't go back to work, where would I be? But thankfully I did. So now, even though I was raising my kids, I was also able to develop all this work experience that I have. And I'm able to do everything that I do now. And because of that, I was able to, like, that one decision to come back to work made the difference. And that's why you have to be very careful about who you're with and who you are around and who is really the closest to you, because these people can control your emotions. There's been times where my wife and I get into it, and right, you get into such a heated argument that the next day you can't go to work because you didn't go to sleep, or you're so worried about our argument from the night before that you're thinking about it, and you can't really go to work because your head is full and you need to fix things with your partner. And yeah, we've had those situations, but we've always come back together, and we have misunderstandings like everybody does, but we come back together. And there were times where I was insane, and she's had her moments too. And but we learn from each other, and we learn. One thing we didn't ever do is we've never betrayed each other. So we have never been disloyal. That is the one thing we have not done. Have we made mistakes? Yes, of course. We were freaking 20s, in our 20s when we got together. In our 30s, right? 40s. Have we made money mistakes? Yeah, of course we have. We're learning just like everybody else. Has she supported me going back to school? Yes. Has she made sacrifices to pay, go work overtime so that we can do X, Y, and Z? Yes, she has. Even till this day, she works overtime so that we could go on vacation. And I do what I need to do too. Like, we both have different jobs and we both have different ways of doing it. But had I had a bad relationship, I would not be able to do everything that I'm doing. Even now, I have a secure relationship. So when I do need to go to events, when I do need to travel, when I do need to speak to different people, We don't have those battles and those back and forth that some people have. I know I would have had that before. And unfortunately, like, I haven't always been the same and been able to provide that to her because of my trust issues, because of my abandonment issues. But I've worked through that. And it took me time. And thankfully, she was willing to wait. She was willing to work it out with me so that I could get over that, so I could get through it. Nobody's perfect. We're all learning. And when you come with all this baggage, like all of us have some kind of experience that screwed us up. I mean, falling in love and heartbreak, that is not easy to get over, and it's really hard. And like they say, right, you're trained to protect yourself. So you begin to protect yourself and you begin to do this. But the one thing that I want to leave you with is the fact that having somebody by your side that really is your support system, that really is there for good, that really is a good person, and who really is there for you, don't let them pay for the wrongs of other people. I did that to my wife for so many years. We didn't even get married until recently. We've only been married 3 years. We've been together almost 20, because I couldn't trust, because I couldn't let it go, because I didn't accept myself. And yeah, people screw us over. Yeah, people do bad things to us. Yeah, people, but the person that's right in front of you, that's the person that you have to fight for. And I had to go to therapy to get over some shit because I was getting really jealous at one point. But that therapy helped. Me going to therapy, my kids talking to me, my kids talking some sense to me, like, listen to them. And sometimes you just don't even realize those crazy stories that are happening in your head, and the crazy stories that are coming, just you trying to protect yourself. And in reality, really is just negatively affecting your relationships. And relationships are one of the most important things that you can have. And I love my kids so much, and I love my wife so much, and we're super happy. And I just wanted to leave you with that, because being accepted is tough from other people. But when you don't accept yourself, that is even harder. And when you have battles to fight, like the ones that I had, where people didn't accept you and people were judging you, until this day they are, because that won't stop. That's the way they think, that's the way they see the world, and that's what they honor. So I need to honor the fact that I know who they are, and that I know who I am too. And I know what I want, and they know what they want. And sometimes, you know how they say, I don't like that juntos pero revueltos crap, like together, mixed up, or whatever the heck it translates to in English. No. Sometimes we're not meant to be together. Sometimes we're not meant to stay in the same circles. Sometimes we're meant to go outside. Sometimes we're meant to find our own. Sometimes we're meant to create something totally different. And that's what I've been able to do. And the best part of this is the fact that I did end up with my fairy tale. I did end up with my happily ever after. And listen, we are in our 40s, okay? The premenopause is hitting. So there's a lot of other things that we're dealing with now. But what we're getting is education, and we're figuring this shit out, because two women going through it at the same time, it is not easy. And it is something definitely that we are going through. And as women, we go through so many different changes through motherhood. We change. Like, my body was totally different. Everything changed during that time. We gain and lose weight. Body images become a problem and all this other stuff. But the reality is that as long as you have a good person next to you, the reality is that if this person is there for you no matter what, and they're treating you well, and they're doing good, and they mean well, and they're loyal to you, you know what it is that you want, and you know what it is that's worth it, because only you can define that. It's not me or anybody else. It's only you. Had I not fought for that almost 20 years ago, had I not decided to go ahead and go pick her up at a boyfriend's house and bring her to my house and be that bold and just go ahead and take care of that, had I not done that, like, I wouldn't be where I am today. She helped me go through college. She watched my kids. Even one time in Mexico, I decided I wanted to go to Mexico, and my middle daughter didn't have her passport, and her father would not sign the freaking paperwork so that she could go. So guess who stayed home with her? My wife stayed home with her for the week that I went to visit my grandma in Mexico. My two kids were able to go, but the middle child wasn't able to go. You know how hard that is for us? You know how hard it is for all of us? So there are things that we still have to go through, because some of these men, they don't do right by us forever. And when they don't do right by us in the beginning, they don't do right by us in the middle or the end. And still till this day, not one freaking penny have I received for my children. But it's not about that, right? It's about us finding our way and making it beyond what we started with, and understanding that, sometimes we are comfortable with the uncomfortable because, or we're comfortable with the crap because we're used to the crap and that's what we know. But once you get out of that and you realize, hey, this is not what I want something else, that is uncomfortable to have somebody who's good to you, somebody who is nice to you, and you're always thinking, is the other shoe going to drop? But at the end of the day, it really does come down to loving yourself and loving the people that love you. And I just want to leave you with that. When you're doing big things and you're doing transitions and you're going through career moves and you're going through your leadership journeys, it does take the right person to have you right next to you to be able to win. And we've been able to do that together. And she's been able to do it, and I've been able to do it. And we both come a long way. And we're both doing really good in our careers, and we're both making it happen. Both going through similar things with our bodies and our ages and everything like that. And trust me, we have our aches and pains that come up, and we're laughing about it. And hey, that's where we are. The reality hits. And as long as you understand each other and you figure things out and you get educated on where you are in your stages in life and you help each other out, everything will work itself out. So thank you for tuning in. Thank you for listening to Latina Mic Drop. If you haven't received your Tattoos and Pearls book, go ahead and get it. I still have those 3 bonuses available for you all to pick up. I have the companion workbook. I have the 90-minute session with me where I'll get into the themes of the tattoos and pearls. One of them is love. And the last thing is your 5-step quick guide. It's really quick and easy. You can go ahead and get started and go to my website, Miriam Simon Online. You could follow me on social media anywhere you'd like. And I'll see you next week. Take care.